headset on. And I kind of messed up the program there for slightly. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be
Good
back
morning, sir.
again.
Good morning.
Let me see if I can spread you out here a little bit so I can see it better. All right. What I said, what I want to do, I'm going to do, is last week when we ended the session, Andy asked about Spain, how they walked out with Spain, and I read a on Shabbos. I was reading this is Rabbi Norman Lamb's book on the Shema, and there was a second, and we usually hear the story of Rabbi Akiva from the Bavli Talmud. But this second one, it's, as he calls it, Rabbi Lamb calls it, it's a second and parallel account that comes from the Jerusalem Talmud. I thought that the attitude of whatever was interesting. So talking about Rabbi Akiva was and I'll kind of read it and whatever. Rabbi Akiva was brought to trial before the tyrant Rufus, the Roman, of course. I believe this happened in Caesarea, in the amphitheater that the Romans built. Time for the recitation of Shema arrived, and Rabbi Akiva read the Shema and smiled. The tyrant said to him, "O man, either you are a magician and therefore do not feel the pain of the torture, or you ignore suffering," perhaps implying that he was a masochist. And Rabbi Akiva said, "May your breath leave you. I am neither a magician nor one who is indifferent to pain. It is rather that all my life I have recited the Shema and was troubled by one verse, wondering whether I would have the opportunity to fulfill it. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your possessions. I have loved him with all my heart and I have loved him with all my possessions, but I was not yet tested as to my soul. Now that I have reached the stage where I am to surrender my soul, all my soul, and the time for the reading of Shema has arrived, I shall not be distracted from loving him," meaning God. "That is why I recite and smile." He barely finished speaking these words when the soul soared upwards. What's different from this, from the Bavli Talmud, is that, one of the differences is that Rabbi Akiva is not talking to his Talmidim. They didn't ask him anything. He's with the tyrant, whoever it is, Rufus. He's with him, and he basically is telling him that, no, I am not a masochist. I am going to give up my soul, my life, for saying the Shema. And he kind of sort of he kind of says, yeah, he kind of sort of gives him I don't want to say he used the finger, but that's about what he does. He says, "No, I'll do what I have to do," because Rufus says to him, if you got everything that I said, he said, he's kind of asking him, because you were asking for trouble by ignoring the law, not to teach the Talmud, not to teach the Torah. Were you ignoring the law? And Rabbi Akiva sort of smiles at him and says, "I did what I have to do, and I'm doing what I have to do now." And I guess you could say that telling him, they sort of giving him the finger as he says this, and he says, "Okay, you got me. I'm going to take my life, but." I guess he's taking charge of what he's saying, as opposed, and it's a much more you might call it a proactive stance than the other story where the other Talmud, which we read last week or the week before about Rabbi Akiva. And the reason why I thought that when I was talking to Mendy, when he asked me about the music marching out to the marching out of Spain, my initial response was they were despondent and they needed to keep this, but it was also a way by singing their way out of as they walked out of Spain, as they marched out of Spain in any direction which they went, sort of saying to the Spaniards, okay, you know, we're not going to be down. We're going to go out. We're going to be up, and we're going to go and do better things someplace else. It's a much more of a proactive answer, a proactive attitude than I think my initial reaction to it was, and it may have been a little of both in it to that. Um, so I just thought that I would bring this up and sort of go over this bit of Gemara to start off. As I said in my introduction, Mendy asked me what was the title. He asked me this last week too. Said I was going to talk about the Shema. And I guess as we see that no matter how you slice that, Rabbi Akiva, he was saying the Shema. That was sort of the key to his life, to finally saying that he was going to honor God. Now, what is the Shema? Now, what is the Shema? What do we consider the Shema today? Uh, I think you could say that I think of it, and I think I've heard Rabbi Yudin say it. The Shema is essentially our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Of course, when you pledge allegiance to the flag, I used to stand up and put my hand over my heart to say it. Still do when I'm in a situation where they say it. So I was trained. Is it prayer or talk? But what is it? What exactly are we saying, and how does it fit into our how does it fit into our davening, our prayers? What is it? Is it a prayer in and of itself, or is it because in a prayer we make requests of God, of Hashem? First line is a declaration. We say, "My Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad." We declare His oneness, and it basically is telling us, "Hear, O Israel." What does that mean, "Hear, O Israel"? Here, pay attention. Talking to you. Pay attention. Hey, listen to what I have to say. And in various points, we do or we don't listen. But we either listen and comply with, I guess you could say he's an invisible God, speaks to us today, and he changes our lives. His way of life it's a way of life that transforms our life. When we hear what he says, um, unfortunately, sometimes we don't pay enough attention. Um, it's kind of you know um, as I said, it's not a prayer in the sense it just sort of gives us our orders. Um, and if we review the format of the davening and the Shema, we see what we have. Um, and I will kind of use my main reference for this is the Mishnah Torah. Can you guys see this? Is the Mishnah Torah from the Rambam? Okay. What exactly do we have to say? What is the answer to what is the Shema? We were obligated to recite the Shema twice a day, in the evening and in the morning. Okay, it says in the first paragraph, when we lie down and when we rise up. That being lying down at night and rising up in the morning, in the daytime. Okay. And what does that mean? It says twice daily when you lie down. The commentary is nevertheless a statement in this halacha do not in the evening and the morning. The obligation to recite the Shema at night is mentioned first in the Mishnah in Brachos 1.1 and here in the Mishnah Torah following the pattern mentioned in the verse quoted above. When you lie down and you rise up. When people are accustomed to sleep, that being the night when people are accustomed to rise in the daytime. Okay. What does one recite? What do you say? We say Shema Yisrael. We say the first paragraph, second paragraph, Oya Im Shemoah, and the third paragraph is the paragraph of Tzitzit, right? Okay, and in the first paragraph, the third paragraph, in essence, okay. And the third paragraph has to do, the first paragraph is an individual commandment that we individually have to do certain things. We'll get into that. And the third paragraph is it's sort of a national, it's a national command that the nation has to, if we as a people, as a Jewish people, do hear what we do and obey the command to do it, we will get certain things that make the nation successful, and Hashem will be, I guess, to protect us and to be there with us. There'll be, and so it's a national command. And the number three, is the commandment that since it is not obligatory at night, nevertheless we recite this suggestion because it mentions the Exodus from Egypt. We are commanded to mention the Egypt from Egypt during the day and the night, in order that you shall remember the day of your leaving Egypt. Okay, and I guess in the first two brachas, first parts of the Shema, we also remember Egypt. How do we remember Egypt in the first two brachas? First part of the Shema and the second paragraph, because we put on our tefillin, and we know that as we were leaving Egypt, Hashem says, I'm going to give you these black boxes to put on your arm, and you'll put them on your arm to remember, always remember you're going out from Egypt every morning. So here we're covered saying the Shema and the blessings of the Shema, and remembering it even in the Shema. So part of the of remembering Egypt is in the Shema. Okay, here's an interesting part here. When reciting the Shema after completing the first verse, we say something that's not in the Torah itself. Okay, if you had your if I said take out your siddur and look at the Shema, we say in the not actually in the Shema, but if you look in the Torah, in the line between Shema Yisrael and the first line is not in the Torah. The line of Roshem Kavod Malchuto Li'olam Vo'ed, not in the Torah. But why, oh, why do we say it? Well, what happens is, because when Yaakov is lying on his bed, and I don't know if we call it his deathbed, but all the way at the end of Sefer Bereshit, his children come in, and he's wondering. They gather them in close to his death. He commanded and urged them regarding the unity of God and the path of God upon which Abraham and Isaac, his father, had tread. He asked them, my sons, perhaps there are riffraff among you. In other words, who are not with me, who do not stand with the unity of God. And this is comparable to the manner in which Moses, our teacher, said, let us be among you a man or woman whose heart turns away from God. And they all answered him, Hear Shema, Shema Yisrael. Hashem, Shema Yisrael. Hashem Eloheinu, Hashem Echad. The Lord our God is one. And that was the wise elder. What is this? And they all answered him. So, and this we have to keep in mind that we say this every night and every morning for almost every day of the year. We say it silently, Baruch Shem. We say the Baruch Shem. We say Shema Yisrael, and we say Baruch Shem quietly. We whisper it. What's the one day that we don't whisper it? Because we say that Moshe, when he was on the mountain, heard the Malachim say this phrase. So on the one day, anybody you always ask, tell me what's the one day that we say it out loud?
Yom Kippur.
On Yom Kippur. Thank you, Mendy. On Yom Kippur, we say it out loud because we become on Yom Kippur wearing our kittel and our talis over our head. We become like Malachim, like the angels that Moshe heard repeat this line. So, and of course, when we as we say it, what do we say it in the morning? We say it at night, and then as we're going out, we say this line 7 times in the just as the shofar is going to be blown, we say this line 7 times out loud because that's our day of being like the angels. So that is an important part of it, and to keep in mind. Wise elder said, "Blessed is the name of the Lord our God." Therefore, the Jews are accustomed to utter this phrase. The wise elder uttered after this verse. Blessings are recited before and after the Kriya Shema. Okay, we know that there are 2 brachas before, and there's one in the morning, Oah Yisrael, and then we say Lad Yisrael in the evening. And that's sort of and why are the brachas there in that way? Because they help us. They're designed. The Ohev Amo Yisrael bracha, the second bracha, is almost like the bracha of that we say in the morning of Nosei Torah. When we're saying the brachas that we're putting on our tefillin, if you take the time to say it. But what happens if, okay, I'll be controversial again, Mendy. I know we have had a discussion about this. If you get there at a certain time and you jump right into the davening at the Borchu, okay, you haven't said it, you haven't had time to go back and say it. Okay, you have your bracha there of Ohev Amo Yisrael. After that paragraph, Amo Yisrael, that paragraph, and maybe we'll spend some time with a sitter open and going through the paragraph, you see that bracha almost covers almost all of the territory that was before. And it's an introduction to the Shema, sort of sets us up to say, if you look at it, and won't go through it today, just to sort of see that it sets us up for the Shema and for eventually, not only for the Shema to say the bracha on the Shema and the learning of Torah, but then it also sets us up for a little bit of learning that we get about Egypt, about going out of Egypt, and eventually Shemon Esrei. So it's a situation designed to prepare us at this crucial moment in the davening to say the Shemona Esrei, to actually get up and say to God, to Hashem, please give me this. I'm the son of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I'm his grandson, or his great grandson, and this is what I need. Okay, and it's a formatted thing to say that what do you need, and we tell God exactly. We have a chance to in various ways to set up the davening for us. It's our way of making. There are ways to make the Shemona Esrei your individual thing, but at the point of saying the Shema, we're pretty much formatted that we are going to go into it. And there were certain parts of the Shema that I found fascinating that probably next week I'll go into what's inside the Shema itself. Okay, the first plus we'll go into the brachas before and after individually. I thought they were interesting enough to do, and I always find it interesting that there are certain phrases in the davening that I always kind of try to focus on to make sure I got the gist of what the davening is, morning and night. The first blessing to the Shema, both in the day and at night, begins, Blessed are you, and concludes, let's see, Lila, okay, and the rest of the blessings all conclude with, Blessed are you, Bracha to Hashem. Do not. These blessings are all, and all the rest of the blessings familiar to the Jewish people were instituted by Ezra the scribe and his court. One may not detract from them or add to them. To every instant they decreed to conclude with blessed bracha Torah, where they decreed, one may not conclude with it, where they decreed not to begin. One may not omit it. The general principle is that anyone who deviates from the set form of the blessings established by the sages is mistaken and must recite the blessings again in its proper form. Anyone who does not say the paragraph of true and certain, at the end of the Shema, in the morning prayer, in the evening, fulfill the obligation. Now, of course, if you're davening without a minyan, you should say at the beginning, you should say El Melech Neman to make up for those three words. One who recites the second blessing before the first, whether in the day or night, and whether the transposed blessings are recited before or after the Kriya Shema, fills his obligation. You can say the second bracha before the first. Person who begins with one who forms the light and concludes with one who brings the evening, that's the first bracha in the morning, does not fulfill his obligation. Were he to begin with the one who brings the evenings and concludes the one who forms the light, he would fulfill his obligation. In the evening, were he to begin, in other words, you're supposed to say them, you should say them in order if we could get to your obligation. That's why they're in the order that they're in. In the evening, where he begin with one who brings the evening and conclude with one who forms the light in the evening, he would not fill his obligation. When is the proper time for the recitation of Shema at night? The commandment starts from the time of the appearance of the stars and continues until midnight. Now, this is an interesting kind of part of the thing of an interesting rule that he gives, because now not only tonight, but I understand that yesterday, many of you guys had a minyan on Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday at 6:30. No, Mendy? Anyway, I heard that they did on Wednesday. I guess they did on Thursday also.
Yes, and we did. We had both nights. And very interesting they make an announcement that that minyan when you should say Kriya Shema. But the truth is, even when you're davening at the later minyan, right, you're saying Kriya Shema before the Zman.
That's correct.
Even at the later minyan, when you're saying Kriya Shema, you still have to say it over again.
That's correct. Except that I think the general rule is that I can remember asking Rabbi when we had a minyan on my block here, and I remember asking Rabbi Yudin about I think it was a Kriya. It actually was about the Kriya Shema and various other counting the Omer, and that's all she was supposed to stay when it gets dark. Remember, I asked Rabbi Yudin, what should we do? Because I remember some of the guys, remember that? What we say?
No,
Remember, we used to, there was always a question, and some of the, should we, and he said, well, he said, you could say it on Friday, you could say it after Shkia, and you'll be okay. You don't have to worry about counting it again. You know, um, you know,
Sam,
That was with the Omer, no? Wasn't with
yeah, what
Kriya
I'm
Shema.
saying is that with the Omer, but it's also you're supposed to say it after dark. Okay,
Sam,
even when we say it in shul now, you have yes, Nat.
if you say Shema at the wrong time, is the bracha not a bracha v'tola?
No, but you're supposed to say it. You're supposed to repeat the Shema. You don't necessarily have to repeat the brachas once it
Uh,
gets dark. That's what I. That's well, that's not in here. This Rambam stuff. It's not in here. But you're not supposed to. But you're supposed to repeat the Shema. It's not a bracha lo You've said the Shema. You've said the bracha for the Shema, and you
at
said
the
the
wrong
Shema.
time. Like you said at the wrong time. So it
But
was,
you still said it. But you still said it. There's a rule that I saw that well, actually not the Rambam, but I saw listening to a Devar Torah on the Shema, and he said that if you say the Shema, when you say the Shema the two times with the brachos and everything else, you've pretty much covered your maybe your minimum amount of basis for the minimum basis for learning, because you're actually learning Shema. Even when you say it early, okay, if you want to look at it, the way to look at it, Nat, is if you're saying it early, what you end up saying is, and you repeat it, okay, what you're saying is you're learning Torah as opposed
um,
to saying the Shema in its proper time. So you're still getting credit in the from Hashem for saying the Shema. It's not like
I
you
see.
wasted your
Mhm.
time saying it by saying it early.
I
You still
understand.
get credit for studying
Mhm.
Torah. You're still studying it. You should still
Yeah.
take the time to read it and try to understand it. Um, that's part of the whole key to this is what I find it interesting. I'm actually not doing too well reading from this mission of Torah, be, but what you're supposed to be doing is trying to absorb what the Shema says. Okay, I mean, there are certain principles to it, and it's getting
Hmm.
on what you're supposed to say and how you're supposed to say it. When you say and because everything leads up to it, and then it sort of goes down into your davening. So you're sort of preparing your head in this whole with all these rules that I read. You're preparing your head for the Shema, and then to go to the Shemona Esrei and to ask God for what you have to ask Him for. And the Shema and don't and the Shema is a key part of the whole thing in many ways. When I was reading the when I was reading Tachanun, in the Tachanun, it says we're the people. Well, we're asking God to save us from whatever's going on in the world because we're the people who say the Shema Yisrael. Okay, in the long Tachanun yesterday, he said the same thing. He said we're the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They had the bris. They followed the bris. They made the deal with God, especially Abraham. But the three of them made the deal, and then we go through this whole long thing, and it says why? Because we're the people that say Shema Yisrael. So the rabbis have sort of tied the whole thing in a pretty knot of saying the Shema becomes, the key part is sort of the pivotal part of the davening without actually, is actually being a prayer and not on in and of itself. It's not a prayer, but it's important, but it's a recognition of who we're talking to. Who are you talking to? You just talking? No, you're talking to God about what you're going to what you're having. You're listening to Him when you're saying the Shema. Let's put it this way: you're listening to God. You're getting what He wants you to do, what He would like you to do. Okay, when you're listening, when you're praying, when you're saying that, when you stand up for the Shemona Esrei, you're talking to Him. So you're sort of doing both. You get in this whole process, you get to listen to Him, to learn from Him, and then you learn to talk to Him. Then you're allowed to talk to Him. Okay, after you sort of get the instructions, then you can ask a question. You're not supposed to ask. You're not supposed to really make the request until you sort of know how to ask it, or be prepared to ask it. That's what I think a lot of this is about. Is asking God, knowing how to ask Him, listening. A good part of Judaism is listening. Shema Yisrael. Yes, I think this week's Parsha is Re'eh. Okay, so you see that this week you see and you accept it, but what are you seeing? What you're seeing, what you first you've heard it, and now you're going to see it. So you're sort of using all of your senses, but you're hearing it first. Okay. In fact, we say, I will do, and then I will hear. So you're not even. So you sort of um, you're sort of doing it all sorts of ways, but you're hearing it. The key to it is the Shema. We're a religion of listening, of hearing, and trying to get it right. Maybe that's why we should all have hearing aids and things like that, so we can hear it even when we get older. But that's the key to the whole thing. The key to the thing is hearing it, doing it. What are the things? What are the things that we're supposed to hear? First paragraph. Uh, you're supposed to support God with your heart, your soul, and all of your strength. And strength, I get in some people say, means everything, including your money, your life, as Rabbi Akiva did, as we just reread that story about Rabbi Akiva. In both cases, in both Gemaras, he gives it all of his strength. He handles it to the end. He's able to deal. In the second Gemara, he deals with the tyrant. Okay, not only is he's about to die, but he's sort of he's strong. He can handle it. The image that might even pop up in my mind, is that image from the Alamo movies where Davy Crockett is going down swinging. That's Rabbi Akiva. He goes down swinging. He says, "Okay, I'm going to die, but you're not getting any satisfaction. I'm not going to give you any satisfaction. I did what I had to do. I'm here, and this is it. This is where we're going." Um, okay, and it's personal. There's a personal touch to this, of course. These are personal mitzvahs that we're doing, and then you're supposed to teach them. You're supposed to teach them to your children, your grandchildren, or your students. For those who don't have children, to teach them to your students. They become, we see Moshe with Aaron's sons, they become sort of like his Talmidim, and they're like his children, almost as much as his own children are. Okay, and in the second paragraph, again, yeah, and both paragraphs actually say you're going to bind them on your hand and bind them between your eyes. Why are you binding them between your hand and your eyes? It's to remember Egypt. Again, remembering Egypt. Okay, the second paragraph is much more national in its nature, has to do with the land. And the third paragraph is the tzitzis, as we said, you don't have to wear at night, but we still wear it. We still say that paragraph because it tells us, reminds us that we're going out in Egypt. And let's not forget that going out of Egypt is sort of the core of our essence. The reminder of what we did when we went out of Egypt is important. Who we were in Egypt and what we are to become. It's sort of that part of the long march to freedom. Okay, freedom is not something we get just because somebody passed the law. Doesn't mean that everybody's equal, everybody's whatever. It's a long to get everybody to believe in what the law says. It's a long march, and I think that's what we have here in our country in the United States, and even as Jews. Okay, we're trying to bring along the Jews. We're trying to bring along ourselves and even the other Jews, everybody, because we're all responsible for one another. Okay, that's from another part, but I think you get the idea, and I think that as an introduction, I'll call this as an introduction to the Shema that will start, and I want to get next week, Mendy. You there, Mendy? You there, my friend? Next week we'll probably get it. We'll get into some of the nitty gritty of what it means to give your heart and your soul for the Shema as part of the Shema. I saw an interesting chapter in Rabbi Lamb's book, and I would like to. We'll talk about it next week. Mendy, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yashkar Sam, very nice. Thank you.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you
So
so
as I
much.
said, Mendy, the topic next week is probably going to be. I'll let you know for sure. To be heart and soul.
Yeah, now I don't see you anymore by Mincha, so
I know you'll have to. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch.
okay,
I
very
won't forget about you. And maybe we'll get the part of your Thursday activity. Not sure about going to the
let me know
game.
if you guys want to go. Don't forget Thursday is going to be a very nice day. You can
No, I'm sure it'll be a
don't have
good
to go
time.
to
Yeah.
everything. You can go to the park. You can go to the brunch, learning. You'll go to the Yankee game also. If you just want to buy tickets for the game, let me know. I can tell you what they're going to cost you.
I will. I will ask my if my
He's a
little
Mets
reader.
fan.
Are you coming to the game, Yash?
No, he's a Mets fan. Who are you talking to? He's not going to Yankees game.
I'm a Dodger fan. I'm going to the game
Yeah,
too.
make a Yankee, maybe a Mets game also for people who are Mets fans.
No, we're not going to.
Ani doesn't
See,
like to
that's
go.
that. I have to ask my son if he wants to take my little grandson to the game. But he's been indoctrinated into Mets mania, so I don't know if he'll want to go.
Well, you can root against the Yankees.
Yes, you see, he is
Yeah,
Mets
it's no.
fan and his son is Maniac.